What up, everybody? You are watching another banger Raging Diecast podcast. We have an absolute insane guest on the show today. We have Damon Dayton on the show with us.
Yes,
A
sir.
lot of you know him from Boulevard. I think it's number 44, the VWSE Bikes van. Damon, thank you so much for being here. It's an absolute honor to have you on. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm blessed. I'm happy to be here tonight, man. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for the footwork to get us here together. I just appreciate the show and the opportunity to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here and taking time. I know you're obviously very active on social media, which all of your Instagram and everything will be penned in the description. So, guys, make sure you give Damon a follow. I follow him, and I think you should as well. And speaking of that, you're into Hot Wheels, but we won't start with Hot Wheels. We are going to start with what is, I mean, it's like you live it every day. It's like your passion, the bike life. Let's start with SE Bikes because obviously, kind of what the whole Hot Wheels thing is that your SE Bikes van. How did you get in with SE Bikes? What does that look like?
So it was about 2010 or so. I went ahead and stepped out of my regular league of riding vintage bikes, and I went down and I bought, you know, a big ripper, and I wanted to do a little bit more BMX stuff because I was doing a lot of BMX stuff as a youth growing up and stuff. I'm the youngest of four boys, so been around bikes and stuff my whole life. And we were doing a lot of vintage stuff and promoting, get out and ride your bike and do stuff. And then I went down and I bought that BMX bike, and man, I can't say it no other way. I just never really looked back. I bought that bike and I got pretty much about 180 SC bikes now as it stands. And I bought my first one 2010, and I just, within 5 days I had five bikes, and I didn't realize how much money I had spent on the bikes. And my wife was like, you really spent a lot of money on bikes. I was like, I know, but I'm gonna go buy you one right now. And she was like, okay, well, let's go. So immediately I wasn't in trouble for spending money on the bikes because she was into it. So we got our bikes together and we just never really looked back, man. Set sails, and we started doing the SoCal rides down in Los Angeles. They call themselves the 4130, and they are a very tight knit group of people that have been organizing and hosting ride outs for several years. And we pulled up to the first one. I think it was around 2014, and we were there just checking stuff out and looking around. And we went on the ride, and they basically do a ride from Hollywood, Highland Boulevard, and Hollywood Boulevard and Highland Avenue, downtown Hollywood, right on the main block of the main strip. And they leave from there and they ride all the way down into downtown Los Angeles to the train station. And then they ride the train back up to Hollywood. So essentially, they named the ride 4130 and they call it the Subway Series. So you basically ride down to the subway and then come back up on the subway. So we had done that and we started doing it a little bit. And then 2015, got Brythop, which a lot of people don't know this backside of the information, but I want to feed it here now because a lot of people have the question, but I feel like a lot of people are also intimidated a bit much to ask it because they're in it so deep and they've been doing it for so long. They never really realize that SE actually means Scott Enterprise, and Scott Brythop passed away in 2015. That was his name, Scott Brythop. And so SE means Scott Enterprise. And so he had passed away in 2015, and we had went down to the ride, and there was probably, sheesh, probably 2 or 3 thousand people there, and they all came out for memorial type of thing. And we were there, and we seen it all play out, and everything, was going down, and they said that they were going to be doing a ride. Um, the following week, I think it was, maybe it was like 2 weeks in between the two rides. And I told my wife, I'm like, we're coming back. We drove down there in the Volkswagen bus, and it's a long drive in the VW. I mean, it's a 5 hour drive in a regular car, and it's an 8 hour drive in the Volkswagen. So we're driving, talking about the ride and what we did and how cool it was and what it would be cool, how cool it would be to bring this back to our town and have this kind of, influence on the youth out here, and that kind of influence on the adults and the families, and whatever it would take to get, it didn't matter who it was. We just wanted to bring people together, and we wanted to get anybody that was happy on a bike and comfortable on a bike. We just pretty much wanted to get everybody together. And so then SE had jumped in right in the middle of all that going on, and they were like, hey, since you guys did something for Scott, we want to come to the ride out, and we want to, talk about Scott again. We want to bring Scott's kids. He has two kids, Brandon and Scott. There's Scott Brythop Jr. and Brandon. So they were coming out to the ride, and there was a guy there that built the frames and stuff back in the days, and he wanted to bless them with some stuff. And so, long story short, we showed up down there, and I seen that SE had posted on Instagram and social media, Facebook, whatnot. They had posted that the first 50 people, they had a special gift for them. So I told my wife, I'm like, we're out of here a day early. I don't care. We're going to be in that first 50 group. So the ride was starting like at 6 in the evening, right? And we showed up down there about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I went and I parked in the parking lot, front row, got a nice parking spot. We jumped on our bikes, we went and got food, and we came back. And on our way back to the Volkswagen, we were like starstruck. We looked across the street, and we had seen Todd Lyons from SC Bikes. And I knew that we were going to see him, but I didn't know that we were going to see him early before anybody else. And I mean, it's like 2 hours before the event, right? And we're down there in Hollywood, and there's Todd Lyons. So I'm like, hey, what's up? And then we shook hands. And my wife tells a better story than that. She said that the music notes and the hearts and the symbols and everything went up, and we were immediately, me and Todd were immediately in love with each other, and our vibe was super connected. And so we had rode around a little bit and did our thing, and we went on the ride, and they did a nice memorial little cruise for him, and we got some of that little bit of gift that they were handing out. And then we were getting ready to go home. The event was over, and Todd had came over to me, and he's like, so what do you got going on tomorrow? And I mean, literally, bro, I'm not lying, not even one little bit. Every bit of me and my wife were ready to get in the bus and go home, because we planned on driving all the way back home. And I was like, as soon as he asked me, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? I was like, no, nothing. What's up? Like, I had no plans, right? All of a sudden. And so I was like, no, we're gonna be vacant, we've got nothing going on. What's up? And he's like, we're having a little private invite ride, tomorrow. And if you wanted to come, I would like to invite you, you and your wife. And I was like, heck yeah. So the next day we went on out. We went and did our thing full force out there with everybody, and did the private ride, and started messing around doing the things. And then at the end of the day, he was like, well, let me get your number. I want to stay in contact. I was like, okay, yeah, I got it. We exchanged numbers and stuff. And then I want to say probably about a year had went by, and he had hit me up, and he's like, hey, you know who Marshawn Lynch is, right? And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, for the Raiders. And he's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I know who he is. He's like, man, I got a question to ask you. I'm like, what? And he goes, how far are you from Oakland? I said, I'm about 45, 50 minutes. And he's like, never mind, man. I ain't gonna bug you with that. I'm like, oh, what's up? He's like, well, I don't want you to have to go all the way out to Oakland, on my behalf. So it ain't that big a deal. Just forget it. I'm like, nah, I like, you started talking, dude. I mean, finish. And he's like, okay. So I need somebody to go to Oakland. I need somebody to pull up to Marshawn Lynch's. He basically has an apparel shop there. It's called Beast Mode Apparel. And I need somebody to pull up to the shop and see if they can actually get a hold of Marshawn. If you can, I need to discuss a map with him about a route, like which way we're going to go. We're going to come to his city. We're going to ride around. And um, we, we're not from Oakland, and we don't know where to ride. If he wants the ride to go down, like, ask him which way he wants to go. So I was like, all right, I can handle that, man. So I just jumped in the car. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I took off. I went to Oakland and pulled up to the beast mode shop and walked inside and started talking to this gal, and she was super friendly. She just kept talking to me, and she's just like listening to me and not even like no facial expressions or nothing, right? She just was like blah blah blah. Go ahead, dude, keep talking, right? And I was like, well, she didn't stop me from talking, so I just kept telling her everything I could possibly get out at once. I told her, I'm from SE Bikes. We're dropping a bike for Marshawn Lynch. We're going to come to Oakland here. We're going to do a ride out here in town. And basically, we want to know where the ride out wants to go. Does Marshawn want to go a certain way, or does he want us to just pick a route? And she's like, hang on, let me call my brother. And I was like, shit, I got the right girl, right? So she got on the phone. She put him on speaker. Next thing you know, I'm sitting there talking to Marshawn and her. And Marshawn's like, yeah, just stay there. And it was probably like realistically, it was probably like 1 o'clock PM now, right? And she's all right, well, I'll talk to you in a bit, and then we hung up the phone and she's like, yeah, he said come back at 7, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I had a few hours to burn. So I went and I kind of did a little bit more mapping and routing and stuff. And I had already like had an idea where I wanted to go, but I figured I'd go ahead and make a little route, some sort of something to have to propose to him, when he got there at 7. So I went and gathered some people. We got a little route together. We did a little, we rode around a little bit. We rode on a map with super red Sharpie so we could like see the streets and everything. And I went to AAA and got a couple maps so I could, ride all over them and make a mess on them and throw it away and grab the next one or whatever. So long story short, I get the maps ready and I got like 2 or 3 maps written on. I got one written in green. I got one written in red. And it's like 7 o'clock. And I'm like, man, I got to get back to the beast mode shop. So I got like 15, 20 people with me now on bikes. And we all go back over to the beast mode shop and Marshawn's there. And he comes outside and he's like horse playing with all the kids and pull up and he comes out front and he's like, he walks out front just like this, dude, clear as day. He's like, so which one of y'all little fuckers want to battle me? And I was like, oh man, we had a kid there that does like a bunch of tricks on the bike, dancing on the seat, feet over the handlebars and shit while he's riding. Super good kid, surfing, all kinds of stuff, right? And I was like, trying to get Marshawn motivated a little bit to talk to us because he just walked out, and I was like, oh, you might want to mess with Ricky right here because Ricky's got, he's got all he can ride a wheelie all the way around this block and come back and do 15 tricks and go back around the block and never drop his wheel. And Marshawn's all, I'm talking about racing. And I looked around, and there's like I said, there's probably like 20, 30 of us, right? I looked around in the group and I was like, well, I don't know, bro. You might want to be fucking with me, you know? I looked and see who was in the group, and I was like, I don't know, man. You might want to be fucking with me, these are your choices here, And he's like, all right. He's like, you got legs or what? And I said, I got legs, bro. I said, I ain't no football star, but I got legs. And I was like, hey, man, let me introduce myself. I'm Damon. I'm the one that brought the maps out. And I wanted to get the map together for the ride. He goes, oh, you're Damon? I was like, yeah. And he goes, you got maps? I said, yeah, I got maps. And I had my backpack on, right? I was like, yeah, I got them in my backpack. I got pens, Sharpies, all kinds of stuff, different colors, everything. I'm ready to go. And he goes, all right, grab your bike. I was like, all right. So we went inside beast mode there. And, he showed up a little bit late. And it's realistically close to 8 in the evening now, right? So 4 hours later at midnight, I finally walked out of his shop. There's nobody out there no more except for one of my friends and my wife. Everybody else is gone, right? And I'm sitting there going back and forth with Marshawn about the map and which way we're going to go and all that. And so I get the map all done and I get in the car and it's like 12:20, 12:30 or whatever. And I'm like, man, I was so anxious to call SE and be like, hey, I got the map done. You know what I mean? Like, you sent me out here to do this. I did it. I was like, wow, I'm on flex right now. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to call him in the middle of the night. So I called Todd Lyons. I'm like, hey, here's what I got. I got the map and this, that, and the other thing. He's like, oh, man, send it to me right now. So he was pumped. He was sitting there waiting on it and stuff. And so I get him the map and all this happens. And And then we do the ride. So the ride's there, and it's the day of the ride. And Todd Lyons from SC comes up and he's like, "Hey, this is your ride. You set it up. Like, you're in charge here. You figure out what's going on for the guys." I'm like, "Okay." And he's got like a crew of, 4 riders that are on his team, and they're called the Cycle Squad Maniacs. And they're basically just like his showcase pieces. He's got these guys doing tricks and, holding the crowd together and keeping people's attention and stuff. And so I'm catering to these guys. I brought out all my bikes because at the point I had a bunch of bikes, so I brought out all the bikes for them to ride. They borrow my bikes. They're at the ride. We got Todd's sister, the camera guys, another camera guy, bike for Todd, a bike for the Willie guys. You know what I mean? Like, I got like 8, 9 bikes out there of my own loaned out. And so the ride goes on, and it was a hit. It was great. We probably had 4 or 5,000 people out on the streets of Oakland. We
Wow.
took over the street. The cops pulled up and they're like, "Hey, what's going on here?" My daughter was there, and she's like, "Oh, my dad's over there on the purple bike. He's in charge." And I'm like, "Oh, great. Now she's telling the cops on me." So I go over there to the cop. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" And they're like, "Hey, what do you guys got going on here?" And I said, "Well, to be honest with you, we're all here." And I was so quick to just pass the buck. I was like, "We're all here because Marshawn Lynch invited a bunch of people out here today, and we're going to go for a ride with him around the city." And the ride meetup was at Oakland Tech High School, where he had went to high school. So the Oakland cops are there at Oakland Tech. I bring up Marshawn's name, and they're like, "All right, you guys have a good day, man. We're out of here." I'm like, "Oh, right." Like, they give us the full green light. They were like, "We're not messing with you guys. You do whatever you want. You're with Marshawn. Marshawn owns the city. You guys do you." So we went and did the ride, and everything was great after that. Immediately after that, SE had, another thing for me to do. And I'm reaching out to them for some stuff. And we're doing more stuff together. And then 2019 came, and I had painted my Volkswagen bus to be the SE bus. And I did that with pure 100% approval through SE because, I'm putting their business name on there and all that and everything, and I have no business with their business other than riding my freaking bike. So they're like, "No, that sounds good. Go ahead and do that." And I'm like, "Okay." So I put the logos on there and stuff. And I'm like, "Man, I need to debut the bus." So I'm thinking, like, I got the bus painted in like the beginning of March. And there was a ride out like April 6th in Vegas. And I'm like, "All right, I'm just going to keep the bus in the shop. I'm going to hide this bitch, and I'm going to bust it out in Vegas." So I took like 6 or 8 kids, and we all loaded up in the Volkswagen, threw the bikes on the roof rack, and we drove down to Vegas. And boom, we threw the bus out on blast out there. And we had everybody taking pictures. Everybody loved it. It was a huge hit. Honestly, not just because it's my bus, but I do want to say that it was like great one of the 8 great things that ever happened with SE. You know what I mean? Like, me getting that VW done and popping it out, and like, people now can take pictures with their bikes, family photos. I got friends standing on the roof rack, sitting on it, like kids wanting to drive it. Like, some crazy shit has just happened because of the bus. So SE's like, "Well, dude, we can't just have you as a guy that's doing stuff for us no more. We need to have you on the team." I was like, "Sheesh, man, I never would have thought that would have happened, but okay." So, and it started out with, "Well, we want to get you a uniform so you don't look like a fool when you get up out of your bus. We want you looking like part of the team." I was like, "Okay, cool, let's go." So I get this uniform and shit, and I'm like getting ready to go on this big tour. We had just did this movie with Warner Brothers. The movie's called Ride, and it's a bicycle movie. And we had did the movie, and it was like Ludacris is in it. There's like a bunch of actors, a bunch of good name actors in it. It's a great movie. And so we went through this whole big scenario of like, we were gonna do like a drop of the movie, and I was gonna take the VW, and I was gonna go on this tour, and I was basically gonna do 10 states and 10 cities in California, and 10 cities out of California. and I was gonna go on this little loop tour, and I had like the loop tour going. I had all this stuff, and like, dude, it was crazy because we were literally lining up rooms, making sure everything was legit. Like, we never really purchased a room, but I called several hotels and made reservations, and like I had like bike shops along the way that were gonna host the ride out, and I had did all this footwork, and I got all this stuff going, and I'm getting ready to go on tour. Shit's about to happen, and then COVID hit, and then
No.
SE was like, "Hey, we're gonna have to pull out for a little while during COVID because we can't sign off on sending you out into the public." I was like, "It's good, you know." And then Warner Brothers was like, "Hey, we can't do no, because we were gonna hit like movie theaters, and the movie was gonna drop, like a preview of the movie was gonna drop that night, one time in that town, and then 2 nights later we're gonna be in the next city, 2 nights later in the next city. Long story short, all that shit fell apart because COVID. So we're just kind of sitting over here doing our thing, and I'm like, man, now's the time to ride our bikes, and I had like put this chain up at my shop out in front of the door, and it was like a joke. I put up this bright yellow chain right in front of the door so nobody could walk in. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna put this chain up, and anybody that's got COVID ain't coming past this chain. I don't care. So we got like 15, 20 people, all of our friends and shit. We're all at the shop just chilling, having a good time. And doing our thing. We're like going on these ride outs and stuff. We're like, 25 people. Next thing you know, we got 60 people. Next thing you know, we got 80 people. Next thing you know, we got 150 people. And the ride outs, because of COVID, nobody's got nothing to do. Nobody's going anywhere. So people were just jumping on their bikes and coming outside, and it was crazy. So we'd go to a city park, and there'd be like 40 of us, and the cops would pull up like we just did some shit. Like, no, like we were all about to go to jail, right? Cops would pull up and be like, "What's going on, guys?" And we're like, "Oh, not much. How you doing?" And they're like, "Parks are closed, COVID." We're like, "Okay, all right, later, man." So Target's closed too, but they got a huge Walmart parking lot. Walmart's got a parking lot, right? So we just started hitting the parking lots. We're like, we're not even gonna go to the parks no more. So we just went to parking lots, going around doing our thing, and then COVID lifted a little bit, and during COVID, that team of riders that were riding for SC bikes kind of fell off a little bit, and SC was doing some restructuring, and then 2020 hit, and they had formed a whole team of riders, and I was in that group of riders, and there was about 19 of us at that point, and we were going to go down to LA. We're going to get a huge Airbnb, and we're going to go do these rides, and we're going to da 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 da. We're going to make a big splash with a bunch of new bikes. So I go down to LA and I build up a bunch of bikes for SE, and you know, basically kind of got my foot like really, really in the door at around 2020, and started doing some work for them. Started working with them. Started working side by side with them, and 2021 comes, and Todd Lyons is the brand manager of SE Bikes. So Todd gets this call from Hot Wheels, and it's this lady named Cindy. She's like, "Hey, we'd like to do a Hot Wheel of your company vehicle." And Todd's got like a 98 or whatever, Toyota truck. And, got my big huge SE wing in the back window. It says SE bikes on the license plate and stuff. And he's like, "Oh, you my truck?" You know? And she's all, "No, no, actually we want to do your Volkswagen." And he's like, "Yeah, so that actually belongs to one of our riders. And we can call him on three-way if you're interested." And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, let's do that." So they call me on three-way, and I'm like, no freaking way did I really just get off the phone with Hot Wheels. So they asked me if I wanted to do it, do a collab with them and use the Volkswagen as a Hot Wheel. And of course, me, I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, man, we got to make this happen for sure. And I'm like, I can't breathe no more. I'm like, dude, like I don't care who you are. I don't care how long you've been in the Hot Wheels. I don't care what you've been doing. When you were a kid, you were sitting there dreaming about having one of your cars be a Hot Wheel. Cause we all did that. Right.
Yep.
So I'm sitting there dreaming about it, and like I'm like, man, I can't believe this is gonna happen. And Todd calls me back after the phone call, and he's like, hey, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, don't say a freaking word to nobody. Nobody. Keep your lips sealed. And I'm like 3 days in, like, I'm trying to catch my breath, bro. I want to tell my wife about it, right? So finally I break down. I'm like, babe. She's like, what? I'm like, I didn't tell you what happened. She's like, what? And I was like, what? Todd called. He wants to uh, put me on the phone with Hot Wheels, and Hot Wheels wants to do my Volkswagen. And she looks at me and she's like, no freaking way, you know. And I got a friend that does sign painting and logos, my friend Alex Foster. And so she had hit up Alex Foster prior to all this when I first did the logos. She had hit up Alex Foster and she's like, hey, what do you think about maybe doing some SE logos on the Volkswagen? And he's like, yeah, I'm down, you know. So she told me, she's like, I hit up Alex and he wants to do logos. And I was like, okay, you know. So when I told her the Hot Wheel happened, she's like, I can't believe it. You know, like I had mentioned about getting logos and now we're getting a Hot Wheel, you know? So it took 18 months from that first phone call for the Hot Wheel to drop. And I'm telling you, dude, I couldn't tell nobody. I couldn't say nothing to anybody. I have my closest friends that I'm like, I just want to tell them I'm getting a freaking Hot Wheel. I'm the baby of 4 boys. My brothers are Hot Wheels collectors. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I just want to tell these people, everybody, my mom, my dad, whatever. I want to tell everybody about what's going on, you know? And I just say zip lip. I don't say nothing. And the Hot Wheel comes out. And so they at first, right before the Hot Wheel comes out, they had sent me some art. And they're like, hey, what do you think of the art? And I'm like, I like it. Everything looks good. I'm like, there's a couple things on here that, you know, I want to nitpick. And they're like what? So I had pointed out a few things that didn't fit the criteria of the scheme. And they were like, okay, cool, we'll get that fixed right away. And I was like, all right, cool, thanks. You know, and I didn't hear nothing back from them. And then boom, the Hot Wheel is out on the stores. So I had never got like the next photo of like, this is what it's gonna look like, right? So basically, they asked me what was wrong with it. They fixed it, and that was it. There wasn't. They didn't need to send me another photo, which I didn't understand that until afterwards. You know. So the Hot Wheel comes out, and my friend from Australia hits me up. He's like, "Hey, you know we get Hot Wheels out here in Australia before everybody else, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I figured you guys get all that stuff, you know, first." He's like, "Yeah, I just bought a Hot Wheel today. Let me send you a picture of it." And I'm like, "No way, bro! Are you kidding me?" He goes, "Yeah, give me your address. I'm sending it to you." And I was like, "Okay, you know." So he sent it to me, and I got the Hot Wheel, and I'm like showing it off to everybody and doing my thing with it. I hung it up on the wall, and I'm pointing it out to everybody, and like it still didn't drop in the United States for damn near 6 months after that, you know, which was a
Wow.
long time, and I didn't realize it. Like for them to get it and us to get it, there's a span there, you know. So it drops here in the states, and everybody's doing their thing, and I'm like going around trying to find one. I never found one in the stores. Never ever. I mean, Hot Wheels did send me a few, and I was so busy giving them out to everybody that I never really got a chance to like check every store frantically like everybody else was doing, you know. And so that happened, and you know that Hot Wheel was for 22. Immediately while that was dropping, like in the stores, Hot Wheels hit me up, and they're like, "Hey, we want to do the school bus." And I'm like, "Hold up, man! I don't even got it done. The bus ain't done. What do you mean you want to do the bus?" And they're like, "Well, do you think you could get it painted before November?" And I'm like, "Yeah, definitely." You know, because I had been working on it frantically for 5 months prior to that. And they're like, "Yeah, November." And I'm like, "Okay." So it's like, it's March, April, May, June, July. I'm like, dang, that's just a couple months, right? I'm like, "Yeah, I could get it done." And they're like, "Do you have any idea what it's going to look like?" So I had sent them a bunch of pictures of the original bus that was out in the 70s and the 80s. And I said, honestly, I'm going to make it look just like this. I'm going to keep the same paint scheme, the same colorway, the same logos, everything pretty much going to look like this. And they're like, okay, so we're going to start working on our end. I'm like, okay. So I get the bus all done. I submit a bunch of pictures quickly, and I got it done. Like I got it done August. Around August 5th or 10th or something like that, I was driving it around finished, painted. And so I submitted a bunch of pictures immediately. And they were like, cool, you're ahead of schedule. Thank you. And I'm like, yep. So they sent me an image of what they had drawn up for the bus. And I went through and I kind of nitpicked a few things. And boom, next thing you knew, the bus was out in the stores in November. And like they were working, like, so the first bus took 22 months, right? The next bus took like 6 months and they were like done. I was like, well, what the heck? Like, how you guys do this so quickly, you know? But on this one, they actually used a concept of a toy that they already had, right?
Hmm.
And the Serpent School bus. And then, so it wasn't really hard for them to reconstruct the whole vehicle. They basically just put some paint on it and stuff and made it look to appear to be what the original one was, you know? And then immediately after that, they're like, hey, we want to do the bus again. We want to do a rerun. We want to change the colorway. What color are you guys thinking? They're like asking me and SE. SE's predominant colors at the time right now were red and yellow. So they were like, well, what do you want to do? And we're like, oh man, let's run that red and yellow. Let's get that red and yellow, you know. So they shot me back a little drawing and an artwork of the bus and what it would look like and stuff in red and yellow. And then boom, it was out in the stores immediately thereafter, you know. So, and then they were like, hey, we want to do bikes with
Yeah.
SE. So then next thing you knew, we did two bikes. We did the Monster Ripper and the Fat Ripper. I have both of them bikes here actually. I got them both right here next to me. This is the Monster Ripper. This is predominantly like my main go-to. This is the bike that I ride a lot. I'm on this one predominantly all the time. This is my baby. That's the one I go to. This is the one my wife got. This one's called a Fat Ripper. So it's a little bit bigger on the tires, but the back half of this bike is blue and the back half of this bike is white, but the front portion are both red with the flames going back. So they both have the flames. One of my favorite things about these bikes is they got the twin mill here.
Yeah.
They got the twin mill on the bike. So that was like one huge thing to me. And then I started going to the bike shows and to the Hot Wheel shows and stuff. And next thing you knew, I was looking at the twin mill and the twin mill was there at the show. And I walked over and I'm looking at it and I'm just like, man, I can't believe like, and I ain't gonna lie, dude, like this was like last year, right? But this was the first time I had ever been up close to where I could actually touch one of the real Hot Wheels, one of the real cars, the real deal, not a toy, not a little tiny Hot Wheel that I could hold in my hand. This is the real car that they made the Hot Wheel after, you know? So I fell in love with the twin mill. I immediately was like all over it. And next thing you knew, I was talking to a couple guys that were there and um, they were basically couple of dudes that worked for Hot Wheels, and I didn't even know it. I just was talking to them, you know. And he's one of the guys is like, so, you know, I've been talking to these guys for a good solid 45 minutes, and they got photographers there, and they're taking pictures of the cars and stuff, and they got the twin mill out. They had like three or four other cars out, and they're moving cars so the photographers could get pictures and stuff. And then the twin mill wouldn't start up, and we started working on it a little bit, and then we started charging the battery, and we're messing around with it. And while we're waiting, one of the guys, this dude Dave, he's like, so what'd you drive out here in, you know? And I was like, oh, I brought my Volkswagen bus. I got the SE bus. And I don't know like what these dudes know of what Hot Wheels were made or what wasn't made or whatever, right? These dudes don't have to be up on everything. They worked for Hot Wheels. They don't have to know it all. Like they're doing what they want, right? And immediately he's all, like I said, dude, I've been talking to these guys for like 45 minutes. And immediately the dude's all, you're Damon? I was like, yeah. And like it made me feel like, oh wow, this guy knows me. Like how cool, you know? Like I didn't even know how to like take it. I didn't know if he had heard my name right there, if he knew it, or my wife had said it, or whatever, right? And he's all, hang on. He's all, hey guys, and he like yelled over about 20 feet over. There was those other two dudes there, you know, and they walk over. They're like, what's going on, man? And they're like, hey, he's like, hey man, this is Damon with the premium. So like I didn't tell him I had a Hot Wheel of my bus. I didn't tell them my name or nothing, but they knew who I was and of the Hot Wheel, right? And instantly, these three dudes were like my best friends. Instantly. So the rest of the weekend I was there with them. You know, like we were doing stuff together with them, and they were like doing their thing, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm there to set up. It was at the last of the Legends tour in El Segundo. So immediately thereafter, I was just like, man, I started looking at the twin mill different, and started thinking about the twin mill, and started coming home. And I think I probably got like 50 twin mill Hot Wheels since. No, I mean realistically, I probably have about 25 twin mill Hot Wheels since then, and I've been buying every little twin mill car that I could find in between then and there. And I was lucky enough to get this hot pink one in Vegas. It's a vintage one, it's a red line, hot pink. And so I've basically just been doing my thing with the Hot Wheel stuff and the bikes and the VW and the school bus. And so it's been a really cool whirlwind of things that have played out up to this point with bringing the bikes, the Volkswagen, and the Hot Wheels together. Like I can't really go anywhere now without being known as either the Hot Wheel guy or the bike guy or the VW guy, you know. So I really love the fact that the bicycle brought me to where I'm at. And I always tell people, man, get a bike, it'll take you places. I've been to several countries, I've been all over the world, I've been to tons of states. I've been you know, on my bike, taking my bike places and going and doing things with the bike crew. And it's been an amazing turn of events, man. Like I've just been so fortunate. And I've been working with uh, here locally to me is House of Cars. So I've been working with, you know, House of Cars, and man, shout out to House of Cars and everybody involved with House of Cars. They've been the best, literally the best. So CJ asked me one day, if you were going to redesign your Hot Wheel, how would you do it? What would you think? And I said, honestly, like the only thing that like I think that Hot Wheels really missed on was on my VW, the logos are different on both sides of the car. So if you were to take the car and turn it around like this, it's got one logo on it, and then you turn it around, it's got a different logo on it. So I thought it would be cool, like if the SE logos were more prominent, and there would be like a little clear strip in the back by where the car is, so you could see the other logo. So basically, I was just like, man, I think it would be cool to have the car in pink, first off. Um, the second thing, have a little clear spot in the package so you can see the back other side of the car. And the only other thing that I spoke about was possibly having the SE logo a little bit more prominent to the packaging and have it be more observant that it's an SE Hot Wheel. And he's like, all right, right on, and I didn't know nothing. So he had got a hold of Lee, and him and Lee had worked up on this. And you see, they made it pink. They got the SE logo bigger there. They made the backside clear so you could see I mean, it's not perfectly clear, but it's checkered. And you can see through it to see the other logo is different than the other side. So, for me to go to the event and them to put me in a designer category, essentially, like I've never felt so more welcomed into a group of guys. I've been doing a lot of things throughout my life. I've been car club members, bicycle club members, lots of friends. Like I said, I'm the youngest of four boys, so I've got uncles and brothers and stuff in my family that have been, like the founding, you know, I don't even know how to word it, but like the people that really brought me to where I'm at. Now look at and see what's going on, and they're just like amazed, like and furthermore, like I said, my brothers have been collecting Hot Wheels since I was a kid, and I've been collecting Hot Wheels since I was a kid, and I'm the baby. I got all their Hot Wheels. So go figure, like once my very oldest brother got completely out of Hot Wheels, became a firefighter, became a paramedic, police officer. I mean, the dude did it all, right? He started collecting Hot Wheels, and he had every Hot Wheel you could think of that was red line, and A lot of my collection came from him, you know, throughout the years. He'd be like, "You got the red one?" I'm like, "Nah, nah, I don't got the red one." "Oh, I'm gonna send it to you." "You got the blue one?" "No, I'm gonna. All right, I got one for you." "You got the evil wheel?" "No, I don't got it." "Oh, I'm gonna get you one." You know what I mean? So like, it's been a series of events have just played out to get it to where it's at now. You know, but back to the beginning of the question, you know, with SE bikes, I really did. I got blessed. I came in at the right time. I was just the right guy for the venue. I was the right guy to help out. I was the next guy in line for, you know, getting the jersey. I wanted to backtrack and speak on one thing real quick. So when we went down to LA and there was that group of 19 people there, and we're pretty much put the team together for the first time, and we're out there to show off and show the people the new bikes and stuff. You know, I was blessed with SE putting my wife on the team as well. Now, you know, man, it really it gets me soft inside. I'm not gonna lie, bro. For me to be able to go and do this kind of stuff with my wife and you know feel secure about my next movement and her knowing, you know, I don't got to explain to her where I'm going to go. I'm going to jump on my bike and go for a ride. I'm going to be with the guys for 4 hours. It ain't even like that, dude. I'm like, "Hey, babe, we're going to go for a ride." "Okay, what time we leaving?" You know what I mean? Like, so it's been a huge part of both of our lives. The VW scene, we met because of the Volkswagens. I've been a Volkswagen guy my whole life. All my brothers got me into Volkswagens, working on them, helping them work on them as a youth, fallen into, you know, being the mechanic. I'm a Volkswagen mechanic. That's what I do for a living. I do Volkswagen restoration. And I say Volkswagen restoration and Hot Wheel collectation. But yeah, so I mean, you know, I've been just like I said, I've been very fortunate to be the lucky guy that got that SE card. You know, I got the golden ticket. I always I tell people that because like I really do. I really do feel like, you know, I got the golden ticket, man. I got blessed with that little, you know, there's thousands of people in line waiting to get that golden ticket, you know? And I was just that lucky guy.
I don't know. Kind of to me, what it sounds like is I mean, you believed in the brand and you kind of like worked for it. And so it's just kind of natural, you know? It wasn't like, there's a lot of people that want stuff, but they just sit there and they don't do it. I mean, you were out with them promoting them and you weren't even with them, you know? Like, so
Yeah.
it just kind of was like natural for it to happen. You've taken a lot of the questions that I had. One thing I did want to circle back to is your wife is obviously a massive supporter of you and the stuff you do. I was going to ask about the team because, like, obviously I was researching you, scrolling through tons of videos. She's always there with you, which is absolutely awesome. So, obviously you have her full support, which is insane because a lot of guys in the hobby, like they buy a Hot Wheels car, for example, and their wife's like, "Another one." They're hiding them in their glove boxes, or you know what I mean. So,
I got two for 30. Well, how'd you get six?
I do have a couple questions on bikes, mainly because I've been looking at SC bikes. I got two little boys there, just now riding, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking for me. I'm a big old boy. What would be like the best all around? I was looking at the Hot Wheels Monster Ripper. It's a 29-inch. Uh, Guy my size. What do you think? What are you thinking? Like best
What,
all around?
what's your,
I'm like 6 foot 6'1".
okay. Yeah. So you would be, man, I don't know if you've seen my video about the Monster Ripper. I had just posted it probably about 3 weeks ago. But that bike, now, I'm going to tell you right now, the Hot Wheel bike is sold out. Okay. So finding it, it's possible. You could find one new in the box still. You could find one maybe gently used, but I'm not talking about the Hot Wheel bike only, but the Monster Ripper is also an ongoing bike that the brand carries. The Hot Wheel bike is just a collaboration with the Monster Ripper. So the Monster Ripper comes in several different colors. That bike by far is hands down the cream of the crop, man. And I'm telling you, dude, I got 180 bikes. Okay. But there's nothing. I'm 6'1", 220 pounds. I got a size 13 foot. My feet goes on the pedal. My tires turns in the front. My feet don't hit the tire when I turn. I'm super comfortable. My feet aren't hitting in the back. I don't feel awkward on the bike at all. I don't feel like there's any part of that bike that's not adjustable for 100% comfort. You can move the bars up and down, back and forth. You can move the seat back and forth, up and down. You can get comfortable on this thing. There's nobody I've ever seen to get on the bike to even, I mean, I don't even want to say I've never heard anybody say anything bad about the bike because I haven't. I mean, like, I've never really, nobody, like, I've only heard super positive, like, 100% good output on the bike. You know what I mean? Like, the way it's built, the bike is built a little bit bigger. It's got a 3-inch wide tire. The rim is like an inch and a half wide. It's a little bit wider. It's not crazy big. It's not too big. There's nothing about the bike that's too big. Everything about it is super comfortable. I would fully recommend 100% jumping on that Monster Ripper. If you got to access at one, or if you know of somebody with one, I would say jump on it and ride it. Go to a bike shop, test one out. All the Monster Rippers are going to ride exactly the same. But yes, the Hot Wheel bike is my favorite Monster Ripper by far. And I think that you would be super comfortable on the one.
What about the Fast Ripper? That's got gears, but I think does that also come in 29?
Yeah, it's also a 29. The Fast Ripper is a really good bike, especially if you um it's funny that I'm going to say it this way, but there's no other way to say it. If you know how to use the gears, the Fast Ripper's a hit. A lot of people get on there and they're like in and out of the gear, in and out of the gear, and up and down and up and down, and trying to get into an easy gear when they get to an uphill and a harder gear when they're going to a downhill. There's there's a certain way to, you know, get those gears to work good for you. I don't feel that downshifting into an easy gear in the uphill is the best thing for your body or your legs or your essentially what I'm getting at is like you'll get to the point to where you get cramps and you start getting wore out and you're gonna be like, man, I don't even like this freaking bike. You know what I mean? It's because a lot of people don't really know how to shift the gears. A lot of people drive cars that are automatics. If you drive a car that's a stick shift, you're gonna get the same feeling out of the bike. You already know what to do, you know how to do it, you've been doing it forever, and you already know how to shift the gears. So if you're into the gear thing and you know how to use the gears, I fully recommend the Fast Ripper. They're super comfortable. They're a little bit skinnier of a bike. They got a little bit smaller of a tire in width and height, but they're both a 29-inch. So you're not really losing size. You're just losing a little bit in height and a little bit in width. And then the structure of that bike is a lot more sleek than the Monster Ripper.
So Monster Ripper, am I going to be able to eventually pop wheelies like I see you guys doing? Maybe, but maybe take it to the pump track, but then maybe do whatever else with it. Maybe take it to the skate park. Is it going to be like versatile like that?
100%. Yeah, I ride mine everywhere. I mean, I took my Hot Wheel Monster Ripper from downtown LA. I rode it all the way to Tijuana,
Wow.
265 miles, and not 1 minute did I feel like I should have brought a different bike.
Wow.
It was the bike. It was super comfortable.
How many miles total do you think you've ridden in your, well, it might be hard to estimate in your life, but let's just say since you've been riding with SE bikes, how many miles do you think you've put down on a bike?
Well, last year was the first year that I fully logged my miles, and I didn't log every mile that I got last year, but I logged probably a good solid 70% of it, and I hit 3,500 miles. So if I've been doing it for essentially 15 years with SE, I've probably been some of those years I've gotten, 3,000. Some years I probably only gotten 1,000. Some years I probably gotten 2,000, you know. But I would average it out probably around 2,000 a year as a solid average.
Wow. I mean, you're putting down people that work from home, you're putting down some numbers that they're putting in their car, if they're not driving to work every day.
Yeah,
That's
that
crazy.
that that
Let's talk about SuperCon in Vegas. That's where actually we met. If you check out Damon's IG. You'll see a video of him signing cars. That's me and my buddy J and E. So that's
Yeah.
where we first met. Was that your first time going to like a diecast convention?
That was my first Vegas show. Yeah, I was invited last year, and I was inducted into the Hall of Honor, and I had got a ring and everything. And unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the event last minute, so I didn't get to go there to the event, get the ring in front of everybody and all that and everything. So I had promised CJ, I was like, hey, next year, man, I don't care. I don't care what's going on. Next year, I will be there. I promise you, man. I keep pinky promise right now. I ain't gonna like forget about you. I don't care if I got to get the bus triple A there. I will be there with the bus. And he was like, oh man, great, you know. So that was my first one there in Vegas. I mean, I've been to a few others. I've been doing some up here in NorCal. I've been doing a couple little Hot Wheel car shows and Hot Wheel events as well. And anytime that I get invited out, I typically go. There's been several events that I've had to take my Volkswagen to one of my buddies' houses and drop it off on like a Wednesday because I'm flying out on Thursday. And then essentially they would take the Volkswagen and they would go do a couple of the car shows for me, a couple of the Hot Wheel diecast events. And it was more along the lines of me getting the bus there at the event so people could see it and know that it was a real Hot Wheel. So I had missed a few, but my bus was there. I got, somebody to go take care of it and get it there for me and stuff while I was out of state. I had left to Vietnam last year and we were gone for like 3 weeks. We went to Japan and Vietnam, and while we were gone, I had the bus at one of my buddy's houses because he was going to go do a couple of events for me while I was gone. There's been a few that I didn't get to make it to, but the bus has made it to. That I think that was probably clearly the most enjoyable one for me because it was more of like I feel like it was more of like a full weekend thing as opposed to like a day event. I've been to a few other ones where, like they'll get us a room for the night, but it's typically just one day. And then when we wake up, the event's gone and over with, and then we go home. But that was my real deal Vegas, hoedown, boy. That was awesome.
Yeah, and then the pink bus you showed was released there. That's a 1 of 15. Follow me and you for kind of more info on that. I noticed you have actually. Let's talk about this. I saw an Instagram post you did. I think you tagged Bruce Pascal, who's also been on the show, about the pink rear load beach bomb. What's the story behind the car you have?
So I bought it in Vegas, and I bought it there at the show. And I really don't know much history about the car. And I tried to get, I showed it around a lot. I wanted people to give me some feedback on it. I paid a few $100 for it. I didn't, this is not the $150,000 car that belongs to Bruce. Obviously, it's clearly not the prototype. It's not the one of one. I do believe that my toy is either a repop or a remake, or I don't know how to word it. You know what I mean? I do know that this bad boy is in such good condition and everything about it is just like on point, and all the specs and the rivets and the holes for the springs and the red lines and the surfboards, and everybody had like all these things to say about they remade the surfboard, but this one looks legit. They remade this bottom piece, but this one looks legit. Those wheels are legit. Like the interior's legit. It's got white interior. It's supposed to have it. Like I I mean, I honestly don't know what to say about it. You know what I mean? But I did get it, and this clearly out of my out of my 25,000 Volkswagen bus toys, this is my baby. And I got more that I paid I got some that I paid a lot more for. But this is something that I've wanted in my life, something that I've been seeing. And man, I think I watched Pawn Stars fit and watched that episode with this bus in it and looked at the box and looked at the packaging and just kind of tried to study the vehicle. And I knew that I mean, I hate to say it like this, but I knew I would never get one. I knew that I would never have the opportunity to purchase one. Not even the fact that I could afford it or not afford it. I just knew that I was never going to be able to afford to actually get one in my hands. So I was at the Hot Wheel event, and it was the first morning of the show. And I walked around, and this dude had, um, 3 or 4 of these regular beach bombs side loaders, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, "Hey, how much is this one?" He's like, "Oh, this is that, this is that," and I got 4 of them there, so whatever. I'm looking at him, and he had them in a nice little case, and I said, "Hey, do you have any more of these?" You know, to be honest with you, I really wanted to get a red one. I still want a red one, and the side loader, So I'm like looking around. And he had like the brown one. He had a blue one. He had a green one. He had a red one. He had um, like the antifreeze one and like the dark green one. So he had like 4 different colors, but he did not have a red one. So I went ahead and asked him, like, "Hey, do you have a red one?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "Well, I got a pink one, but it's a rear loader." And I was like, and I just thought to myself, right? I didn't say it out loud, but I thought under my breath, I was like, "Stop fucking playing." No, you don't. So as he's talking, he just staring at me, bro. He just like reached up on top of this display case, and it was like the display case that the toy was up on top of probably was the top of the case was probably at the top of my head. And I'm, like I said, I'm 6'1" and I'm standing up there looking at the case, right? And he just generally reaches up on top of the case and grabs the cardboard box and hands me the box. And I thought to myself right then and there, I'm like, "There's no way this is actually the pink beach bomb?" And he hands me the box, and he's like, got his hands on it. And I got my hand out flat. You know how you are, like, "Man, we're not going to drop this, right?" I got my hand out flat, and he sets it in my hand, but he does not let go. And then he takes it out of my hand. And I'm like, "Oh, this guy's a jerk, right?" What the heck? He's not going to let me see it. So then he opens up the package, rolls it out, and hands me the toy out of the package. And I was like, wow. And to be honest with you, I didn't even want to ask him how much he wanted because I knew I couldn't, I knew I probably was not going to be able to, bring it home. So, and I said, "So how much is the brown one?" Because he had like like this color brown. He had like one of these beach bombs side loader. I was like, "Well, how much is the brown one?" And I got the pink one in my hand, right? I'm like, "Man, I can't afford the pink one. I'm not even going to ask, right?" So I'm like, "Well, how much is the brown one?" He's like, "Well, I think I want, you know, 250 for that one." And I was like, "Okay." I'm like, "Damn, that's a good." I'm thinking to myself, "That's a good price for the brown one. It's in really good shape. It's got 2 surfboards, everything." I'm like, "Damn." I'm quickly trying to like hand the pink one back to him, right? So I got the pink one in my hand, and I said, just like this. I was like, "Okay, here you go. Let me see that brown one." So he takes the pink one, he puts it in the box, and real carefully, and he sets it back on the top, and pulls out the brown one, hands it to me, and I was like, "Man, this thing is nice." I'm like, "What are you asking on the pink one?" He's like, "Oh, I'm asking 300." And I thought to myself, why only 300? Right? I'm like, this is the toy that everybody knows in the world. I don't care if the thing's freaking plastic. To have it in your display case, it's worth way more than 300 to me in my head, right? And I looked at the dude and I said, "All right, well, thanks, man." So I just walked away. And I'm like, "Man, I'm not gonna buy that thing if it's fake?" So I went over to a couple other guys, and there was a few, all the real Redline guys were in the rooms, right? So I go to a couple of rooms, and I'm asking around about the bus. And dude, it'd been like 45 minutes from me setting it down to walking away. And I probably asked like 6 or 8 people, 10 people by now. And I just told myself, "Dude, go get the freaking bus." I looked at my wife and I said, "I'm going back downstairs." She's like, "All right." So we took off. We went back downstairs. I walked right up to the dude. I was like, "Would you take 280, man?" And he goes, "Yeah." So I was like, "Man, I quickly paid it." And then I went back into the rooms and I started showing it to the guys, and I was asking questions. And like I said, everybody was asking questions about how the surfboard layout was. They pulled them out. They were looking at the surfboards. They were looking at the spring holes in the bottom. They were looking at the rivets. They were looking at the way the wheels were there. They were looking at the wheel well arch, the white interior. Just going back and forth with all these little things about the toy, and like nobody told me I made a bad purchase. And I didn't tell a bunch of people what I paid, but people knew I didn't get it for free. So I asked Bruce, you know, and El Segundo, me and Bruce had linked up, and I got Bruce's number and had told Bruce about getting the pink bus and sent him a few messages. And there's part of me that I feel like, you know, I'm a collector, first of all things, everything that's ever caught my eye.
All righty, guys, we are back. Little bit of technical difficulties, no big deal. We are back. Damon, welcome the heck back. I think you know exactly where we left off. So yeah, let's start off right where you left off, like it never happened.
Okay. So yeah, I was basically going to talk about the pink beach bomb, how I thought it was the coolest thing in the world to be able to have one. But I also wanted to speak on it as a collector, and I wanted to speak on it as a collector standpoint. This is something that I really feel like, I want to speak on Bruce Pascal because he is the man, and I want to give him all the credit where it's definitely needed. But the toy has been pretty much highly spoken about through every industry of Hot Wheels you could ever imagine. And I just really feel like my specifically, I'm speaking of my toy. I don't know if it's a repop or if it's original or if it's not a Hot Wheel or whatever it is. I just feel like these are the type of things that really hurt the industry. And that being said, I want to stop there for a second and I want to talk about the Volkswagen buses. So every Volkswagen bus owner spends their life sorting out the VW bus and the one they want. And obviously, we always want the one that came from Germany that has all the cool stories and the backstory and the everything and all the cool accessories and everything that goes with it. Well, then they started making the buses in Brazil. And those Brazilian buses, the true collectors do not like them. Everything about them is a bad taste in our mouth. So that being said, coming into the Hot Wheel world, some people would rather have the pink bug that's original over the repop pink beach bomb, right? And I understand why. Because this is one of those things that probably have like I want to say dampered the industry. I don't want to say that they're a bad thing. I'm happy to have it. I'm gonna keep it forever. It's not for sale. I don't want to get rid of it. Like I'm not mad at it. But I did want to speak on that fact that these are the things that, essentially are dampering the industry and not making the ones that are worth the most money because these little ones are coming in under them and then trickling up to it and people want to act like I got $150,000 Hot Wheel in my hand. I don't, guys. I have a $300 Hot Wheel that I probably paid too much for, but I do feel like it's worth every bit of that to me because I'm a Volkswagen collector and Hot Wheel collector. And that being said, this is the most premium Hot Wheel and the most premium Volkswagen toy out there. So I'm very fortunate to have it. But on the same side of the coin, I did want to say, not trying to beat it up or nothing, but I did want to say, these are the type of things that really damper the industry and make the true collectors kind of sigh at, you know. I'm sure that Bruce probably has one of these or has had his hands on a couple to see him, but I'm pretty sure I could say that he probably don't like them as Bruce Pascal. I don't believe that he likes these toys that are, being made to replicate an authentic one.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that point. And there's a few other areas where, like, to the Red Line Club, like the new RLCs, they used to have numbers and now they don't. There's like things that like a collector likes because it makes it feel like a collector item, having a number on the car or whatever, and they do away with it, and it makes it feel less collector-ish. So if you have a pink beach bomb and then it's 150, Bruce said he wouldn't sell it for less than 1 million. And then they just are like, oh, let's make some replicas of that are floating around. Yeah, no, I totally see your point. But I, I see the collector side more than I see the side of like, well, we want everyone else to have one or whatever. Like, no, like I got something special. I want it to be something special.
Yeah.
Definitely see the point on that for sure.
And like I said, I'm not trying to bash it in any way, shape, or form. I truly love it, and I'm like, it's still my highest sought after Hot Wheel and my favorite one. But I can't say that I got the $150,000 Hot Wheel. And people have messaged me, "Hey, Damon, do you know what that Hot Wheel's worth? Do you know what you have?" I'm like, "Dude, you do some research, do a little research, because I have, and I know what mine's worth, you know." So I just wanted to speak on it. I just feel that, like I said, being a Volkswagen bus guy, the last thing I don't want to come back to my shop and have my friend pull up in his Brazilian bus and ask me to you know do anything to it, because everything's a little bit different. It's quirky, cheesier made. Things are, like, I none of my stuff fits on it, even though everything's identical. It's just different. So that being said, I just want to speak on it being, as proud as I am of it, I am still like, man, I do feel like, there's a reason why people, and I get it. People don't like this kind of stuff in their industry, even if it's bicycles, I wouldn't want a SE bike to roll up on me, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally see that point for sure. Or and it might not even be fake. It might just be a repop or whatever, but like, the fake Jordans, that's kind of a whole thing, people getting fake Jordans and replicating the true thing is always like kind of mad. But I will say that bus is awesome. And it doesn't matter what you paid or what it's worth. It's the fact that you like it. And that's something you want. And you can be like, look, I got my own little pink beach bomb. And that's the beauty of collecting too, is uh collect what you like. You like the car, you pay $300. Awesome. You like the car. You know what I mean? That's also the
Yeah,
beauty of it as well.
yeah, definitely. And I agree. And that's why I just wanted to say, a little bit about it, because at the end of the day, it's my baby, and I love it more than all the other Hot Wheels. Well, I guess I probably love this one more and this one, but yeah, I just want to speak on it. I'm glad I got the opportunity to bring it up. I didn't want to like go by and not speak on it.
Yeah, no, I mean it seems like it seems like things have kind of gotten away from the collector and are like, I wouldn't say money grabs, but like they can produce items that they know will sell, and it's kind of gotten away. Like collectors, a lot of us collect things for the collectability and the value of it. And it does seem like in some aspects, Mattel and others have gotten away from that aspect, and they'll just throw another release of it out there, and it puts a bad taste in your mouth because you're like, well, maybe it wasn't only super limited. And kind of like, let's talk about the Vegas bus, right? One of 15. If we go
Yeah,
back to Vegas next year, right, and they release the same thing and they do 100 of them, you're like, well, my one of 15 is not really a one of 15 now. Like they might change the color a little bit or whatever, but kind of the same thing, I think, is what you're getting at.
yeah, totally.
Let's talk about cars, and then we will work on finding a landing zone here. I did see something interesting. I think it was, I don't know if it was a Monte Carlo, a Caprice. I don't know what it was. It was a red donk, and you were putting a rag top on it. What is up with that car?
That's a LS Caprice. That's one of the local guys here in town. He's actually a SE bike guy as well. He's had that thing for a while, and he's been talking about wanting to do the rag top, and he knew that I've done them before and stuff. And I told him, I was like, man, get that rag top and bring that thing over here. Let's get it done. And I think he was more surprised that it looked like, I feel like he was like, he just wanted a rag top, you know. In the beginning, he just wanted a rag top, and it didn't matter. But I think he was so surprised to see how nice it actually did come out. I mean, because he has the phantom top there on the back, which is a cushioned area, and then the rag top is kind of recessed down into it. And then we had to put in some support plates in the front, and we had to clearance a little bit of metal in the inside of the roof zone so we could connect it all to get it to be strengthened. But I think at the very end of everything, he was more surprised how good it actually looked. And then we went back a couple days later. We ordered up some red velour headliner material, and then we went back and I did the headliner a couple days later and got the headliner back up in there, and it came out super nice, super dope.
So working on cars, has that always just been something you've done, or is it something that you like doing? I know you said you're a VW mechanic. Where does that all come into play?
Yeah, so I mean, as a youth, my father was a race car driver and also a mechanic, and we pretty much me and my brothers, we all just kind of fell into his footsteps. And I think I took it the furthest out of all the boys. I pretty much replicate my dad more than most of us. But that's essentially just because I did the mechanic thing my whole life. I've had the shop and got stuff going on, and always got something building something new, and got some new product to drop out for people, and working on things like the Caprice. You know what I mean? Like, I just got a lot of good opportunities in life to be able to work with good people that have nice stuff, and I'll be able to make it, do a little upgrade to it, help it out, make it look a little better, or help it along during the project, or I do convertible tops, I do interiors, I do Volkswagen restoration predominantly. So anything in the assembly line of a VW bus or bug or whatever, I pretty much put them all together. I get fresh painted cars and make them run and drive and make them showstoppers.
So if anyone needs work, check out.
Yep, yep, definitely. Heck yeah. I'm in Stockton, California, man. If you're local or even coming through, you want to come by and check out the little SE museum, check out my little Hot Wheel collections, check out the buses, come by for a burger. Shit, just pull up. All love.
There's a. I have a ton of questions left, but I'll leave it to just a couple left. I know you're really, really passionate about kids getting on bikes. I wouldn't necessarily say underprivileged or any of that, but you're really passionate about making sure these kids are going down the right path. Where did that passion, and I know it's something you're very passionate about. I think on Instagram I just saw you gave away a bike to a kid. Where does your passion for the kids and making sure like they stay on the straight and narrow, don't strive, get off that? I know in a lot of ways these kids look up to you, and then you try to make sure they go down the right path. Where did that passion start? What kind of developed in that?
I don't really, I don't know where that whole thing stemmed from originally, but I felt like as I was a youth, I grew up, and because I was the youngest of all the boys, and I had a mom and a dad, and I had a lot of things that people were like always giving me stuff and helping me out with stuff, and like whatever I was working on, people would help me work on it. You know what I mean? And I just felt like one day I want to be able to return all these favors that people have given me. You know what I mean? And I was like, my mom and dad moved to LA, downtown LA, and we were in, I want to say like Linwood or whatever, in the middle of LA, and kind of a rough area. I don't want to say a bad area, but definitely a rough area. And my mom and dad had just moved there, and they didn't have a lot of money, so they were hustling and they were working. And I mean, I'm not saying they didn't have time for us kids, but they were so focused on trying to get that dollar that we were shorted a little bit. You know what I mean? And in that time span, I became very independent, and I used to just get on my skateboard or my bicycle and take off for the day, and I'd come back later in the evening when it was time to eat. But during that process of me doing that, I ran into all these little tiny jobs and like little places where I would be able to help out, and little shops and stuff that people would let me help them work, and they'd give me cash and stuff. So I just felt like, having the opportunity of having my shop and having a place for the kids to go. I'm off the beaten path. I'm not on the main street. I have like an enclosed gated area so the kids can come over here, do wheelies, ride around, practice their tricks, or just learn how to ride bikes over here. Bring, a lot of parents bring their kids over here, and I always tell them, I'm like, yeah, you want them to learn how to ride a bike, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, well, leave. And they're like, they look at me like, well, we want to watch, and I'm like, well, no, your kid ain't gonna learn with you standing here waiting for him to baby him. If you want him to learn, I don't mind teaching him, but you can't be here. Like, either go inside or go to the store, get some sodas, and come back, or whatever. I'll work this out. And boom, within a few minutes, almost every time I get a kid pedaling on the bike, no training wheels, and freaking out because they did it. You know what I mean? And then they run to mom and dad, and they're like, I did it. You know what I mean? So I always feel like the kids are willing to learn if you are willing to help them out. And I feel like that's like where I was when I was a youth. I wanted to learn a lot of stuff, and I didn't ever learn nothing by not asking questions. So every time I asked a question, I felt like people were there to give me the extra effort of taking the chance of learning, and on their end taking the chance of like trying to teach somebody and have them maybe do something the wrong way or whatever, right? So I just always appreciated the fact that I could be that guy as a youth, and I you know I really wanted to pay it forward. So I think that, when I got a little older and figured out what I was doing with my life and stuff, that was one of the things that I really focused on. And I didn't do it like planning to do it down the road or nothing. I just did it naturally. And the kids here in town, I really want to say that we've given some bikes to some kids that are super needy and really need something, right? But a lot of times the last thing they need is a bike. They need clothes or underwear, socks or shoes or whatever. But we're able to slide in with a bike and give them that little smile, and then that really brings them to the level of, hey, what's up, guys? I'm here with you, to the other kids, right? So they actually become somebody and find themselves. And I got kids that have been coming around here since they were 8 or 9 years old, and they're still coming around. They're like 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. I've had friends that left to go to the army and came back, and they're still riding their bikes. You know what I mean? I got friends that came out to ride bikes with us, Volkswagen friends just were in town. I convinced them to jump on the bike with us, and now they're bike people. You know what I mean? And I got all these people that I've met along the path of going down the bike lane, and I've met people at the Hot Wheel events, and I've met people at the Volkswagen shows, and I've been able to get them all to go to a Volkswagen show, or all to go to a Hot Wheel show, or all to go to a bike ride. And I feel like connecting people is something that I've always been really good at. And if I'm good at something, I feel like I should be able to use that token that, I was fortunate to get. So that being said, I feel like I've just been like a really good mouthpiece. I've been able to help people. I see what people need. I've had nobody I know really had a perfect life, right? I didn't have a really rough life, but I've had a stage life where I'm 50, 52, and I've been down some streets, and I've learned a lot of shit the hard way, and I've learned shit the wrong way. And I feel like if there's something that I can do that's right, I want to be able to show somebody else how to do it right and get past the hiccup or the speed bump or the problem that they may have, like taking off their back rim with the pegs and these little tensioners to hold the wheel in the right spot. I'm not gonna lie, it may not look like it's a lot of work, but it's kind of hard to get it perfect and right. So some people, I see them struggling, and I'm like, hey, hold up, let me show you what to do. Like, don't be afraid to learn. I know you're my boy and everything, but like, you might be gangster and all that, but you need to learn how to do this the right way. Like, let's learn together. So I've always been able to give that little fortunate piece of advice or help, and I feel like I've been able to bring people together because I've been able to be that guy. And I got my wife that's with me, and she backs me up on a lot of stuff that we do. And so when it comes to the kids, we put them first. We've given bikes to older dudes, like we give them bikes to 60-year-olds. You know what I mean? In fact, We called this guy Uncle Ruben. He's everybody's uncle, you know, super good dude, been riding bikes forever. I've known him for damn near 20 years. And I met him through bikes, and I've been riding with him still. And he's 72, and he did 3,000 miles 2 years ago, throughout the year, logged miles. And I told SE, I was like, hey, this dude, 70 years old, man, he just did 3,000 miles logged this year. And SE's like, who? And I told him who, and they're like, we're gonna give him a bike, get a hold of him, ask him what he wants. I was like, heck yeah. So I was that guy. SE sent me the bike. I got to build it up, and I was the guy to give it to him, you know. So we've given bikes to 58-year-old dudes, 60-year-old dudes, 70-year-old dudes. Predominantly, I like to give them to the kids, but there's always that person that really deserves a bike, and we're able to be able to put somebody on it, and bringing somebody full circle is huge to me. So if I can get a kid blessed, that's where I stand the most proud, for sure.
Yeah, I noticed that. I mean, your page is kind of full of you really just giving, and so definitely something that I wanted to bring up. We will do one last question. It's probably going to catch you a little bit off guard, but what is something that you would just love to leave the world with, or knowing, or what would you just love to tell the world?
Man, I got a couple things to say. First and foremost is be kind, be loving, be caring, be trusting to your loved ones, and be promotional to people that are in need of promotional use. And if you got friends that are down on life, be sure to give them a hug, be sure to give them a call, reach out to them, stay connected with your family, your loved ones. If you got good friends that you've been around for a long time, make sure you make time for them. I know times have been really quick last few years. Times have really flown by, you know, and I know it's not just me, it's for a lot of people. But that being said, I feel like first and foremost, you should be able to make time for other people and be passionate about it. Don't just do it because you think it's a good idea. Do it because you want to, and make sure that you are sincere about it, because people really do need other people. That's one thing that I'd like to leave the world with, for sure. And secondary, get a bike, man. Get a bike. It'll take you places. Get a bike, get on that thing. It'll bring you exercise. It'll bring you friends. It'll bring you memories. You'll be able to get on that thing, man, and ride one block away from your house. And I guarantee you, for the next 25 minutes while you're on that thing, you're not going to think about one problem or one misery, or the car that broke down, or the alternator that went out, or the car that just had a flat, or you're going to get rid of all those thoughts, and you're going to get out there and you're going to do you for a few minutes. And I just feel like it's so embracive to tell people how important a bicycle. I know it's just a bike, right? But man, it is something. It really is. It will really take your mind out of everything. And it's not just the bike ride, it's the relaxation that your body gets and your mind gets right. And you forget about everything while you're on that bike, because you got to pay attention to traffic and the road. And you're watching for things that you're running over on the ground, and making sure your brakes work. You're going to stop up here. You're watching for somebody coming through. You're watching people on the sidewalk. You're so busy, caught up in the moment, that you don't have a chance to think about all the bad and the negativity, and all the political stuff that's going on. And you know uh, man, it's crazy to think about it, but that is one thing that I would emboss highly to everybody, man. Get a bike, get on that thing, and go enjoy it.
So, if I get the Monster Ripper, am I going to be able to rip wheelies with enough practice like you do? Is that thing capable for a big
Yeah,
boy like me?
yeah, definitely. I ride wheelies on my Monster Ripper everywhere I go. I just rode it last night. I put around 20 miles on it last night, and I think I probably did about 13 of the miles on a one wheel, right next to my wife.
That is one thing that I think is just absolutely awesome. Is like you're there, she's there, and it's not just biking. I mean, that it's definitely biking, but at the Hot Wheels convention, like you guys are together, just you guys are locked in, and it's awesome to see. Really, it's been absolutely awesome having you on. Maybe we'll get a round two if you're up for it, and maybe dive into to like deep Hot Wheels of your collection and everything like that.
Yeah.
I'm super happy with how everything went here. I hope you are too. But
Yeah, I am. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity getting on the show. I really do have a huge passion for diecast in my life. You know, it may be Hot Wheels, it may be Matchbox, it could be CQ. There's all these German toy companies, and I've got tons and tons of Volkswagen bus toys that are highly collectible, highly sought after. Some of super low numbers, some that were 1950 only when the bus first came out. It was a promo model because the bus wasn't even out yet. They could just show you a toy. I mean, I got some of the coolest stuff, and I would be totally stoked on like having a chance to get it all out, wipe it all down, put it on a couple tables, and go through it with the people because I know that not every Hot Wheel or every toy, you don't need to get the full story on everything, but every one of my toys is, I've been highly sought after. I've been picking them here and there. I might go to LA and stop at an antique store and buy a toy, a Volkswagen bus toy, and it could be anything, you know what I mean? But it's any brand or whatever. But I'm very passionate about them, and I got a great collection that I would love to share with people.
yeah, let's plan a round two, and then I would love, yeah, if you had everything laid out and we could see it. I think that would be super super interesting for everyone watching as well. So definitely let's plan a round two. I do want to thank you so much for being here, taking the time out of your day. We had some issues. I'm sorry about that, but in the end,
All
I
good.
think it's going to turn out really well. I do want to reiterate what you said. Be kind. I said in one of my videos a day or two ago, like, if you ain't called your mom in a while, call your mom. If you haven't called your dad in a while, call your dad or your brother or your sister or whatever. Just let someone know you love them. That's kind of been on my mind too. So it's like perfect that you said that. You never know when like your time's up. My time up could be right after the show, and so you
Yep.
got to be ready for it. And
Yep.
let those who mean the most to you know that they mean the most to you. Don't let a day go by. So I really appreciate the heck out of you, man. All of our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. Follow, shout out your IG. What's your? I know it's
It's Damon underscore VW underscore guy. So it's Damon VW guy. And it's Damon Dayton on Facebook. I'm over there on all the little things too. I guess Twitch, YouTube, all of it. But it's all Damon VW guy anyway, all the way along the way, except for Facebook. It's Damon Dayton. That's my full name. And furthermore, I'd like to throw a quick shout out to my SE team, my SE family, the entire people, everybody from SE Bikes, everybody that's ever given me the opportunity with Hot Wheels and anything to do with the Hot Wheel brand and bringing me into the Hot Wheels scene. I want to say thank you to them. TJ, bro, you're the man. I love you, bro. Like, I appreciate everything you've ever done for me. Um, Lee, shout out on the bus, bro. This is so dope. This is something that I never would have thought came about, and it did. Like I said, shout out to Hot Wheels, all my toys, all my Hot Wheels. I'm a lucky man to have three of my own Hot Wheels. I come in under a designer level on on the fourth Hot Wheel. So shout out to everybody involved. First and foremost, thank you to my wife for letting me do all this and be right there by my side with me. And thank you for putting me on the show. And I can't wait for the next one. And we're going to be able to run this back. I got a lot of shit to say still. And I feel like you need to start planning on show number 3 and 4.
sounds good. I mean, we'll have you on as many times as you want. And you have tons of stuff you can show off. 180 bikes. That would be a show right there.
For sure. I still got the big bus that I'd like to show in person. And I got the VW bus that I'd like to show in person along with the Hot Wheels and give a little bit more detail. So I want to come back. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, we'll definitely plan it. Thank you so much for being here. And thank all of you viewers for tuning in. I love the heck out of all of you guys. Peace.
Peace.